November 17th to order. Thank you, staff and council, for coming. And for the presenters, we appreciate your attendance. Before we begin, we'll have a land acknowledgement that this meeting is held upon the land in which we meet as the traditional territory of First Nations people who have a long-standing relationship with the land, water, and regions of Southwest Middlesex. The nations along the banks of the Thames River include Chippewa of the Thames, Oneida Nation of the Thames, Munsee Delaware Nation, and Delaware Nation of Moraviantown. We convey our respect to our First Nation neighbors and thank them for their contributions to our culture, our community, our past, and the partnerships we'll strike in the future. Moving on, Council, is there any declaration or pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof? Seeing none, that we will move on for the confirmation of the agenda. The agenda has been circulated. Are there any errors or additions that you would like to point out to the chair? We'll have corrected. Seeing none, we'll entertain a motion to accept the agenda as presented. Show of hands. Marjorie, Councillor Marjorie Emery and Councillor McCollum. All in favor? Carried. Delegations and presentations, there are two. Mark, we'll start with you. You sit up at the desk there, make yourself comfortable. Morrow's there to assist you with any technical difficulties there. Yep. Okay, there you go. You're wired up there. And Mark, thanks very much. You'll be giving us a presentation on recent events in the Conservation Authority, and we look forward to those, and we'll give you 10 minutes plus, okay?
Thank you very much. Your Worship, Mayor Mayhew, members of council, first of all, I'd like to recognize Councillor Vink, who is your representative on our board, Lower Thames Valley Conservation Authority Board. Always well prepared, always solid questions that sometimes I can answer, sometimes I have to look up. So today I'm going to talk about the amalgamation that is being proposed of conservation authorities and the thing called the Ontario Provincial Conservation Agency. Next slide. In doing this, I'll explain what the agency is, the problems that we foresee with it, the amalgamation, the problems we foresee with it, and requests from our board to municipalities to support coming up with a better resolution. Next slide. So the two items of the presentation are, first, that the province has changed through Bill 68, changed the Conservation Authorities Act to create a new agency. And I'll go in the details about that agency. And the second thing is that they're proposing changing the boundaries of the 36 conservation authorities in Ontario. Next slide. So the municipalities of Middlesex were key in the formation of the Lower Thames Conservation Authority back 65 years ago on Groundhog Day coming up. The municipalities got together and petitioned the government to form the Lower Thames Valley Conservation Authority. It started with the municipalities. The municipalities formed the boards. They have funded us and governed us ever since, 65 years of that. The big thing about the conservation authorities is that we're on a watershed basis. It's local decision-making for the people of our communities. And over the long term, we're trying to make our watershed better for our communities and for generations to come. Next slide. The old way that the conservation authorities were organized were there's about 317 conservation municipalities that have people on boards of the 36 conservation authorities. And then we directly relate and respond to the government. So our regulations, our permits, all that stuff is dictated to us by the province. We do those things, but we're governed by those 317 municipalities. What they're proposing to do is to make 7 conservation authorities, regional conservation authorities. Those would then respond to this new thing called the Ontario Provincial Conservation Agency, and it would dictate what we did, and then there would be a board of governors of it. Then it goes through a new position called the Ontario Conservation Executive, and then to the province. So there's a number of layers there. One of the things that's important in this is for the first couple of years, the province said they put money into this, but after that, it will be the municipalities paid for the whole thing. So there's significant cost implications here. Next slide. So what does the Ontario Provincial Conservation Agency do? It oversees the conservation authorities. It creates the transition of whatever we become in the future. It evaluates a financial performance, the governance, the operations, the planning, basically everything it will have control of. My biggest concern, and I guess our boards also, was that municipalities have no guarantee of representation on that board. It's unclear how local priorities will be the priorities of the new conservation authority. And once again, it's to be funded by local municipalities. Next slide, please. So here are the regional municipalities, our regional conservation authorities. There are 7 of them in Ontario. One of them, the Lake Huron one, actually includes the Lakehead. It's kind of a long stretch. The Lakehead brought forward the idea that actually from the bottom part of that to Florida is actually closer than from the bottom part of that to the Lakehead. But these big, massive things don't make a lot of sense when you're talking about planting trees with people, when you're talking about being there, when you have a permit, all those types of things. It's all about local involvement. We are at the level of your building people. When we have a permit with a resident of your municipality, we are there on the ground with them. We actually go out with survey equipment and survey elevations for minimum elevations on buildings. That is all about local service, timely, and the people know our staff, and it works. Just like your building people know the people of your communities. That is what we can potentially lose here. Next slide. So we are to be put into the Lake Erie Regional Conservation Authority. It will include Essex Region, Lower Thames, Upper Thames, St. Clair, Kettle, Catfish, Long Point, and the Grand. So it gives you an idea of the extent of this thing. Next slide. We now have 10 municipalities, and St. Clair has 17. There will be 81 municipalities in this, all the way from Hamilton, who is in the Grand, Guelph, Kitchener-Waterloo, Cambridge, to Windsor, to London, to Sarnia. That whole area. Right now, we have 100,000 people in our watershed. St. Clair, about 150,000. There will be 2.2 million people in this regional municipality, or regional conservation authority. So my question is, how are small local rural municipalities going to have any say about where their money is spent in this big thing? Next slide. And I realize that you have these slides beforehand, but and I'm only going to go over the red parts because I think they're important. The other parts kind of talk to them. But the big concern is local municipalities will lose their say how their money is being spent. Right now, we tailor programs and services to our local watersheds because we are governed by local councillors across this watershed. We have 12 members, and they run the Conservation Authority through the Board of Directors. Those, I believe, will be in jeopardy. A lot of the lands we have were donated by people. And they were donated by families in many ways. That the way land and stuff is donated to a municipality. They want to do something good for their community. And we respect that. And we are quite concerned that the regional municipality may not have the same values that on those lands that those people have been donated. And that is a major concern. Next slide, please. One of the reasons, well, a number of reasons. There's 4 reasons the province says this needs to happen. That we're inefficient, that we need some governance across, some policies across Ontario, a number of ideas like that. There is no reason that that can't happen with the way we are. And we can do that for a lot less cost than throwing the baby out with the bath water and starting over again. Local service delivery, once again, and I can't express the importance of this enough, is that local service delivery is critical. And we need to be able to talk to our residents and respond to their needs on a one-to-one basis. So one of the other goals is a consistent permitting process. No big deal, we can do that. Many municipalities use platforms for building permits across Ontario. that would be just fine and would work fine, but we don't need to be amalgamated. Next slide, please. So what is the Conservation Authority Board recommending? Regional conservation authorities are way too big. Why not leave us alone and tell us what you want and we'll respond to you? We always have, we can do it still. Or is there some other reason? I don't know. Next slide, please. There are other ways that we can amalgamate. If you want us to amalgamate, we can amalgamate within like regions, within like economies, within like communities. So it makes sense, Upper Thames, Lower Thames, St. Clair, we can all come together and we could have the same communities being responded to in the same ways and the same municipalities many times too. So that's fine, but not 81 municipalities, maybe 25 or so, and we can figure out some sort of governance that allows every municipality to have say. Next slide. One of the things we could use is source protection regions. We already have Upper Lower Thames and St. Clair in a source protection region called the Thames-Sydenham Source Protection Region. That could be used and it very well could work out well. Next slide. So what is the request? We want the province to stop at moving forward with the 7 municipalities. And you got to remember, this started in October 31st. The Bill 68 took 21 days to royal assent with no consultation because it was part of an omnibus budget bill. So no consultation on the formation of the Ontario Provincial Conservation Agency. And we asked that other things be looked at, but specifically with the input of the local municipalities that are providing the funding. And I believe there's a resolution that was recommended by our board, which is the resolution that the county of Stormont, Glengarry, Dundas and Glengarry passed. That's my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. To Mark, yeah, I completely agree with your presentation, Mark. So I'll be saying that again tomorrow. And I started out in a one-room school. So that just shows how old I am. But I haven't seen an amalgamation yet that has saved money. It didn't happen in Chatham-Kent. It didn't happen in Southwest Middlesex. And so therefore, I'm completely behind you in trying to get away from 7 different areas. The only thing I can say is Southwest Middlesex is covered by two conservation authorities, and that could be a bit of a problem, but you've already touched on that you're willing to compromise. And so I thank you for your presentation.
Mr. Mayor, the funding for the Lower Thames, we get a lot of donations, we get a lot of grants. So that's about 60% of our funding. But out of the rest of the funding is about 37% municipal funding and less than 5% provincial funding. Yeah. So in 1996, we received, across Ontario authorities received 40 million from the province for base funding for the conservation authorities. Last year, we received 3.6 million among 36 conservation authorities.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Mayor Allen. I just want to say I've been a member for a few years, and I believe it is a tightly run ship under good leadership of Mark. I'm not just saying that because there's certain government authorities aren't run as well, but just like Mark stated, there's very little provincial money coming in there. And it's a big deal to me, people that donated land, they believe in conservation and they believe in a legacy and what's going to happen when the Ontario government takes over, what's to stop them to sell that to raise money. So this is really a big deal.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. I sat on the board for St. Clair Region Conservation Authority, and Councillor McCollum's on that board now, but yeah, I would like to see these boards stay, or these conservation areas stay separate, or at the very least, if Lower Thames and Upper Thames and St. Clair merged, that might work, but this is going to be way too big. And I'd like to move the recommended motion of support. It was just meaning I move that we pass that recommended resolution at the end, but if we pass receiving his report, will that mean we're supporting the resolution too?
What we can do is we can receive it for information, and then we can also put in there that you direct staff to support the resolution that's passed, the one that was told.
Yep, that sounds good.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Well, good afternoon, members of council, staff and the public. Pleasure to be here again today to provide you another riveting presentation on development charges as well as your background study. Now, recognizing in the interest of time to be respectful, we do have a presentation that has been provided and circulated. However, there are a lot of slides that were already presented to members of council, I believe, last month. So we'll go through at least the highlights, but really want to focus you on the findings of the study, as well as one more important change, which similar to the speaker before me, changes to the Development Charge Act because of Bill 60 and what we've had to do over the past month to be able to adjust for that as part of your background study. So we go to the next slide. And again. So first off, we are still working with municipal staff to finalize the background study for this month. The end goal, barring any comments or questions from members of council, is to incorporate those comments as part of the background study and release it before the end of the year. And then going into January and February into the implementation process, where again, I would be back to undertake a mandatory public meeting, which then opens up the floor to members of the public for questions and of course yourselves. And then, looking at February for the consideration of that bylaw. Next slide, please. So again, just to recap, I think we all know what development charges are. They're meant to recover for growth-related capital costs for the municipality. And if we go to the next slide, how we've undertaken that is, again, looking at all of your information, your official plans, master plans, servicing plans, etc., and really putting all that together, synthesizing it into a development charge background study, as well as an associated charge. Next slide, please. I'd like to reiterate, same as before, as you are growing or any municipality, within Ontario, there are infrastructure requirements to service that growth, whether it's residential or non-residential. There's no magic to it. Municipalities only have a finite amount of resources to be able to fund this infrastructure. And you're well in your power to have development charges. Currently, you don't. And by not having it, any costs with respect to infrastructure is falling on property taxes, water, wastewater rates, reserves, et cetera. So it's really meant to offset the burden on the existing taxpayers and ratepayers. Next slide. So again, overall, what we undertake is the analysis where we identify all of the infrastructure, and that's required to service growth. And this is where we work with all of your departments and determine who is going to be what type of growth you're going to occur within the municipality, and really one divided by the other to generate the charge on a residential or non-residential basis. Next slide. As a recap, we are undertaking, the municipal development charge bylaw for water, wastewater, services related to a highway, which is your roads, bridges, sidewalks, public works, facilities, fleet and equipment, fire protection, and parks and recreation. Next slide. So I'd like to just take a little bit of time here with respect to what has changed since I was here back in November. And the main one that's on the screen here is actually Bill 60, which is on the very far right-hand side. Bill 60, the Fighting Delays Building Faster Act 2025, received royal assent on November 27th. But keep in mind that this bill was actually proposed by the province on October 23rd. So within basically a month and 4 days, it received royal assent. So it was a very accelerated bill, and there's been a sweeping number of changes to not just the Development Charges Act, but I believe 9 other pieces of legislation, similar to the speaker before me. With respect to Bill 60, at least how it impacts development charges, we had to go back and recalculate all of your historical information because we are no longer allowed to include land costs as part of the historical calculations. However, that doesn't mean that we can't include future land costs if you decide to purchase a piece of land to build infrastructure. It just means that we have to now treat it in a different way. So while the forward-looking isn't as rigorous in terms of a change, there was a lot of work to go back the last 15 years and then strip out all of the land that we initially included as part of your historical inventory. There's some other changes as well in terms of adding a few more requirements to the local service policy. And if you recall, a local service policy is essentially a guideline that lays out what you require a local developer or builder to construct within their subdivision, right? Local roads, sidewalks, etc., versus what you would like to include within the development charge, to service the broader area. So there's more stringent requirements now that we have to abide by. And we're still working with staff to be able to, just finalize those fine details. And then the rest, there are more changes with respect to how finance has to deal with certain, submissions and treasurer statements and the dealing with credits. So while it doesn't impact the calculations as of now, that's more a forward-looking issue should those situations come up. And then the last thing here is that we now have to have more detailed explanations for every single capital project that we include as to what is the impetus of growth versus non-growth. So, while we typically provide enough background detail, the province just says, just beef it up a bit more. So we already provide that as part of our background study, but we're just enhancing it slightly prior to the release of the report. Next slide, please. So if you recall, there's a number of mandatory exemptions that you still have to adhere to when implementing a development charge bylaw or a rate in itself. So the DCs are not full cost recovery. So if the upper tier were to build a facility, they don't pay your DC. Likewise, you wouldn't pay theirs. School boards higher in the pecking order. Again, they're from the province. They don't pay local municipal charges. The industrial building expansions, they can build, more than add 50% to their existing footprint without having to pay a DC. Again, a one-time exemption. And then you can see there's others as well, discounts for rentals, intensification clauses where you can add additional units, not pay a DC as well. And then, we have the nonprofit rental housing and then as well affordable units. And next slide, please. Now that's the mandatory piece. Yourself as council and any council within Ontario have the ability to introduce additional exemptions. So again, you can, reduce the charge, maybe, a part of it or, a whole category. You may also even exempt, certain types of industry, right? Maybe you want to exempt, the agricultural and farms, and then maybe provide, maybe exemptions for churches as well. So again, that's council's allowance should you decide to do so. You may also phase in the charge over time, again, if you feel that the charge is accelerating at a fast rate or, it's just going from 0 to hero, you have the ability to phase it in at any stage as you like. And then you also have to provide redevelopment credits where if, a house burnt down or a house was demolished, they should be able to rebuild, not pay a DC or convert as well and get a credit for whatever was there existing. And you can see on the screen common exemptions, industrial, farms, places of worship, hospitals, etc. Now, keep in mind, any exemptions that you do provide, they do have to be covered off through other non-DC sources. Because, and I think I gave this example, if you had $1 million that we deemed as a growth-related project that we've included in the calculations, and we were supposed to collect $1 million, but you decide to exempt an industry that would have paid $100,000 towards that million, then really we're short, $100,000. So you still have to build $1 million piece of infrastructure. You got to figure out where that money comes from. So it's either taxes or rates, etc. Next slide, please. Now, as part of the analysis and through discussions with municipal staff, it is proposed for council's consideration that we've included a discount as well as an exemption to be added on top of the mandatory items from the province. So the first one is a discount for industrial, whereas we, staff and ourselves, we're thinking of perhaps introducing or including a partial deduction of about 50% for industrial developments, which would then support, economic competitiveness and job creation within the municipality as well as your neighbors. And then, but this would also apply to only industrial uses that would be defined within the bylaw. So we'd want to ensure that, whatever is considered industrial as per your definition would then, fit this criteria. And then the last piece here is an exemption for bona fide farms. So typically this would be more so the, the farming portion of the, of the site. So we'd exclude any non-agricultural uses. So whether it be residential or, diversified on use, areas. Now, this is based on whatever the definition is we put into the bylaw. So as I said, this is for council's consideration that we are at least putting this forward. Next slide. If you recall, we do have those affordable exemptions. So you can see on the screen, just as a refresher, if you do have an affordable unit that is being sold within the municipality, if it's sold for less than $348,400, then it's considered affordable. They don't pay DCs. Likewise, on the top half of that chart, depending on the size or the type of number of bedrooms, whether it's a studio, bachelor, all the way to 3+ bedroom, if it's considered affordable, if the rent is less than $1,032, all the way up to $1,480, depending on the number of bedrooms within that unit. Now, keep in mind that any affordable exemptions need to be backed up with a 25-year agreement. So essentially, if someone were to come and meet this criteria, the municipality now has to enter into a 25-year contract or agreement with them to ensure that it remains affordable. So there's now additional administration, additional tracking, and at any point in time that they break that affordability clause, you then have the recourse to then charge DCs. Next slide, please. I won't touch too much on the local service policy. I think we've talked about this before. Again, as I mentioned, it's a guideline for you to establish what you require the local developers to construct internally versus what we would include in the DC study.
2 minutes left.
Yep.
Byron.
Yep. So then with the growth forecasts, again, if we go to the next slide, please. A lot of this is based on the work that our firm had undertaken with yourselves as well as the county. So right now we are aiming to grow to about 7,200 people by 2045. And if we go to the next slide, that represents roughly about 1,200 population increase over the 20-year period. And likewise, that's about 300,000 square feet of non-residential. If we go to the next slide, please. That translates to about 620 homes over that 20-year period. Next slide. And then similarly again with the non-residential. Now, if we go, next one, please. So this is our service standards where we had to amend the calculations. And this is what was what we had to redo over the last 3 weeks because of the changes to Bill 60. And if we go to the next slide and just skip this one to the next, please. This is the draft capital program that we are proposing to put in front of council, where we have about $24.7 million worth of capital. The largest component being water services, followed by wastewater and fire protection. Next slide. And really the punchline here is based on that growth forecast and the capital program, that generates a charge of about $21,997 per single family home if you are serviced with also water and wastewater. If you're not serviced with water and wastewater, so you're outside the municipal service areas, then it's actually $5,917 per single family home. So the largest component is your water and wastewater infrastructure. And then you can see this, depending on the size of the unit, the charge does come down. And then with the non-residential on the right-hand side, it's about $10.05 if you're fully serviced with water and wastewater, or if you're in a non-serviced area or not to be serviced with municipal servicing, it's $2.38 per square foot. So there's a difference there between the infrastructure services. And then next slide, you can see now with the survey, this puts you in right pretty much in the middle of the comparator list, just underneath, Strathmore, Caradoc, North Middlesex, but still above Warwick, Adelaide, Metcalfe. But keep in mind, Adelaide, Metcalfe, for example, does not have water and wastewater in their DCs. Similar story on the non-residential in the last two here. So you have the commercial, again, being with the same comparators. And then lastly, on the industrial side, being right in the middle. And I do have the capital program appended to this presentation. So, given the fact that I believe I'm at time, I'm happy to answer any questions with those appendices. But the details to the capital program that make up that 24.7 million are in the subsequent slides.
Okay, thank you, Byron, very much. Byron, I'm going to be selfish and take the first question. Going through that, the numbers you mentioned, I was glad to see that the rural properties with no services have a very competitive rate there. Are we competitive with those rates that you suggested?
To your worship, based on what I'm seeing here, I guess I believe so. Competitiveness again with DCs versus everyone else. If we're looking from a pure development charge standpoint, you're very comparable with your peers. However, DCs, at least in my experience, have not formed are not the deciding factor for the most part when it comes to construction. There's other pro formas that developers usually look at, again, tax rates, building permit fee, like all other fees with, DC being one.
Yeah. I see. It's just part of the puzzle. Yeah. Okay. Council, any further questions you'd like to ask in regard to development charges? Councilor Vink?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. At one point, I believe Adelaide Metcalfe does have some services. They have a sewage plant outside Kerwood, and they receive water from Strathroy Caradoc for a part of their commercial area, which they pay. So anyway, when a developer puts up a new subdivision in our area, and I could be incorrect, but I believe they're paying for everything right now. They're paying for street lights, they're paying for streets. I think they're paying for water hookups and sewer hookups. So I just like to ask somebody, Amanda or the mayor, if that's correct.
That is correct, and I'll share that with Byron and Amanda. But when those individuals move into those houses, they take advantage of our recreation facilities that we have paid taxes on for generations, and our parks that are available to them. They get to enjoy the use of those. So it is a stress on our system, including the maintenance we have on the Tri-County water system that is going on. People move to an area that entertain those qualities of attraction, parks, recreation, good schools, things like that. And there's been a long history of local taxpayers paying into that. They're moving in and enjoying those benefits with no history of investment in those. But Amanda, I'll let you take it on from there, and Byron can certainly answer.
Thank you, through you, Mayor, to Councillor Vank and Council. You're correct. So the process for subdivisions will not change. Developers will still be required to install the infrastructure required for the subdivision, the roads, et cetera, and turn them over to the municipality. Development charges do take in more long-range costs, as the Mayor said, previous costs, but more so future costs related to growth. And I think, for clarity, I'd prefer to defer to Byron to express and answer this question, if that's okay with council.
Yeah, go ahead, Byron.
Yeah, thank you, Amanda. So yes, that's correct. That's why we do still have a local service policy that still outlines your current practice of what you require those developers and builders to construct within their, I guess, four walls, or so to speak, in their subdivision. However, what the DC does enable, and as the mayor had pointed out, it is, for those broader services that everyone then really pays towards. Again, what you currently have existing now has been the investment has come from the existing community. So if there's now any growth in those added capacity, building new facilities or expansions, then that's where we're just requesting that, the new developments, which would then be utilizing that new capacity, would then pay for that share of those works. Additionally, too, with the DCs, it also assists with multiple developments. So when there's multiple subdivisions all happening at the same time, and now a road needs to be constructed, rather than the three of them trying to figure out, well, who's paying for what portion of the road, well, clearly that road is now within the DC and everyone pays the same. So that way the municipality can update that road for the benefit of those three subdivisions, let's say.
I could just add to it, it gives us some tax rate stabilization. It benefits taxpayers in that they're not burdened by the extra development that is done and the stress on those services. So Councillor Vink, I'm sure you'd be interested in the fact that it will make us more tax friendly on the levy if we institute these to existing taxpayers. Any further questions? One more, okay, and then followed by Deputy Mayor Schulweis.
Yeah, my concern also is listening to what Byron's saying. It seems like to me that there's going to be a lot of paperwork. And so the next thing we will hear is we'll need more staff to look after the development charges.
No, I don't think that's correct, but I'll let Amanda answer that. She's looks after the business end of it, and she's quite qualified to address that.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew, through you to Councillor Vink and Council. So, that's certainly not the intent. Development charges will be implemented using existing staff resources. They have in many other municipalities. It's just another fee and charge that the municipality charges. As you know, we charge many for recreation and hall rentals and road permits and all kinds of things. So it wouldn't be any more resource intensive than the collection of existing fees. We would just coordinate with the building department and ensure collection. So do not anticipate at any time requiring additional staff for specifically the processing of development charges.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Schulweis, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. There's a question for Byron. We get our water through Tri-County Water, and we are considering moving our water and wastewater infrastructure assets into a municipal services corporation. Will that affect how we can charge development charges on those assets?
Great question, through your worship. It will have to have some type of a transition clause. Typically, if you are going towards, let's say, an MSC in this example, depending on how the MSC is set up, if it's its own government enterprise, government business enterprise, then they would have the ability to basically undertake all of the business relating to water and wastewater. So therefore, you wouldn't collect anymore. It would be that entity that would be adhering and administering all of the rates, fees, and any potential development charges as well.
Sorry, just to clarify, we couldn't collect development charges then.
They would collect on your behalf for the water and wastewater piece.
I don't believe they can.
Yeah, go ahead, Amanda.
Through you, Mayor, to Deputy Mayor. So in the preliminary examination that the Tri-County Board is doing, this would certainly be a question that would be included in their business case study and their reference of pros and cons. But there is a process and an appropriate process to work with MSCs to be able to capture development charges. It is commonly applied with other water boards that have taken a similar path. So I think there's enough resources out there for us to ensure that our development charges are collected in cooperation with Tri-County, no matter what form of governance structure it takes in the future. But it will be part of the evaluation process that Tri-County will consider, and that will be a specific question I think they'll discuss during that process.
Okay, thank you very much. Councilor McGill, go ahead, please.
Through the mayor to Byron, I'm looking at the graph here, survey of comparative municipalities. Looks like Elgin County and Lambton County don't have the upper tier development charges like we have here in Middlesex County, which is $5,000 on a house. How common is that for an upper tier municipality to charge a development charge?
Great question. So through the mayor, it is up to the upper tier municipality. I think there are a handful that do not collect development charges at the upper tier level, but it's partially because maybe perhaps their tax rates are at a level that's collecting for any related infrastructure works, or there may be other instances where they're collecting the money or having different agreements with the local municipalities. I know, for example, like you said, like Elgin County. I know I just worked with Renfrew County up by Ottawa. They don't have a DC, but they were exploring the idea of it. But it's all a matter of being methodical of just because you have a DC, what are you going to be using it for if you're not expanding services? So, the DCs are only useful if you actually have an expansion of capacity for infrastructure. If everything's really status quo, at least at the county level, then the DC won't help them at all.
Okay, one more question, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. I just see where you mentioned there would be development charges for parks and recreation. I just wondered if you could expand on that a little bit. Is that similar to a percentage of green space when a new development goes in?
So sorry, what's the question, Deputy Mayor?
I'll just slim it down. Development charges, if you could just speak to how it affects parks and recreation.
Absolutely. So with respect to parks and recreation, as I mentioned, development charges, they're meant to capture revenues to be able to pay for growth-related works. In our particular case here, at least for the municipality, what we'd looked at was the potential number of subdivisions that will be coming online, or number of units that will be coming within the municipality. And through that, they typically provide you with parkland dedication, right? And if it's a subdivision, typically they'll probably give you dedication, not cash. So at this point, depending on whether they construct the park themselves or just give you the land, seeded, sodded fence, then the development charges that we've included in here is for then the municipality to take that land and then program it, put your parks, put your playgrounds, etc. So the DCs, again, is to provide you with that infrastructure enabling revenue to undertake that work. Likewise, if you require that developer or builder to build the park on your behalf, then perhaps it's a credit where they kind of did the work for you. So if you do collect DCs, you're kind of just giving it back to them because they did the work on your behalf. So that's what we were using the Parks and Rec for.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Byron. Byron, a good presentation. Recommendation council is before you to accept the report for information. Is there a mover and a seconder? Counselor McCollum, Counselor McGill. Any additional questions? All in favor of receiving the report for information? Carried. Thank you, Byron, very much. Council, I kind of informed you, I'm kind of working with a bad tooth here. We're going to take a 5-minute break, okay? And I'll be back in the chair, okay? Thank you, Council, for that break. The chair's got a glass of water now and he'll get his voice back here. Before us is the consent agenda. We'll go through them. If there's any you would like to pull out, please raise your hand. I'll maybe pause and look up. There's several draft regular minutes of the council meeting of December 3rd. Minutes of the council meeting December 10th. Voucher reports. Yes, go ahead, the Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. Just had a question on check number 005882 for Cornerstone Architecture. It says pool preliminary budget and project 2000 preliminary budget for 2,432. And I just wondered what that's for.
Kevin, can you address that? Yeah, turn your mic on, Kev.
Sorry, thank you. We had Cornerstone come in before budget last year to give us pricing on the redo of Project 2000 and the pool house, and the cost in it would be when it came to the Trillium grants and all that other stuff.
So from last year.
Yeah, that was from last year.
It was something going
So I guess from springtime was when they came in. That's where that's from.
perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks very much, Kevin. 5-4, the media release, County Council. 5-5, London, Middlesex London Health Unit. And 5-6, Middlesex London Health Unit again. And 5-7, the Municipal Engineers Association appoints a new board of directors. And 5-8, St. Clair Region Conservation Authority proposed regional consolidation of Ontario Conservation Authorities. Any comments on that? Yes, Councillor McCollum.
Yes, I can just say that I'm repeating all the stuff that Mark did. Mark, wasn't it?
Byron, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mark. Yeah.
And we just don't know what we're going to do with the revenues and stuff like that over there. There was even talk of just different counties going, but that's no good either because, for instance, we have places in Erie, and then we got the Campbell Park that's sitting on two different counties. So I don't know where it's gonna go. It's gonna cost quite a bit more money if they amalgamate. They all can see this. We won't have no voices or nothing.
Okay, so on respect to 5-8, just discuss it, or did you want to support the recommendation?
I'm going to support it.
Okay, that's moved. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor McGill, thank you very much. Discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you, Councillor McCollum. 5-9, the Sawville Bayfield Conservation Authority, consultation on proposed boundaries, a similar subject. Any action? Okay. 5-10, Town of Petrolia, resolution of support regarding City of Cambridge rent protection for tenants. And 5-11, Town of Blue Mountain, resolution supporting Township of Tiny Energy Ontario pumped storage project. And the last one, I think the last one, 4, Township of Minden Hills, resolution supporting regarding the town of Mattawa, strong mayor powers. Continuing, town of Puslinch, resolution of support regarding municipality of South Huron and township of Edwardsboro, Cardinal, Ontario Community Infrastructure Fund. City of Toronto, resolution of support regarding adding a swim to survive to the Ontario curriculum to improve water safety. Yes, get Deputy Mayor Council.
I'd like to
Deputy
endorse.
Mayor, go ahead.
I'd like to endorse that if we could.
Okay, you'll move that. Is there a seconder for that? Councilor Emery, thank you. Discussion? All in favor? Carried. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. City of Peterborough, resolution of support regarding the Elect Respect campaign. I'll move that forward. Is there a seconder? But just treat people with respect. Okay, Deputy Mayor Schuldice. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. And we have Honorable Jill Dunlop, Minister of Emergency Preparedness and Response, Emergency Management Modernization Act, achieved royal assent. That's for information only. Council, you have had the 16 items read to you. You've dealt with several of them. Is there a motion to receive the consent agenda as presented, with the exception of our endorsements on those items? Councillor McGill, Councillor Vink, all in favor? Carried. Well, moving on, Council, we're at number 6 on our agenda. Committee of Adjustment, there are none. Public meetings, there are none this time. Staff reports, 8.1, CAO on the 2026 budget survey, the public results summary. Amanda, would you like to lead us off on that?
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew, through you to council. The report before you is for information in advance of the 2026 budget process and provides details of the public budget survey that was issued in October and was open through October and November. There were 61 responses, and the survey trends and data are included in the report for your information.
Okay. Is there any questions from council? So the recommendation is to receive the report for information. If I could ask one, I was disappointed in the number of responses that we had. Generally speaking, if you hit a home run on something like that, it's not as big as what you might think. It's 1/4% from my marketing background on something like that. So if you apply that, we should have had 50, 60, 70 responses. And it looks as if we had just approximately 10. Is that correct?
No. So the public survey, so there are 2 surveys on the agenda today. The public survey had 61 responses this year for the 2026 budget survey, which is down. Last year we had 84 responses. The other survey you're referring to, I think, Mayor Mayhew, is the next report is related to the council budget survey, which for obvious reasons had limited responses submitted.
All right.
But the reports look the same.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay. So the motion is to accept 8.1 for information. Is there a mover and a seconder? We'll certainly allow for more questions. Councillor Myers, thank you. Seconder for that. Councillor Vink, questions? Any more to Amanda? All in favor? Oh, yes, by all means, hold the vote. Hold the vote.
My hand up there, like, I'd just like to ask Amanda, how do I put this correctly? Is it worth staff's time to do this yearly when we get so few responses? Just kind of throwing that out there.
Thank you for the question, Deputy Mayor, through Mayor to council and you. I mean, I think the process for the budget can always be set or amended by council itself. So if council felt public consultation was not worthwhile, then certainly we wouldn't need to continue it. It is considered, I think, a best practice in budget preparation, and certainly there are tidbits from the survey, even with a limited response, that do help guide staff and council. In terms of resources being input into the budget survey itself, aside from some, of course there's advertising, but we do those items regularly. And as because we've used a very similar survey than we did from previous years, the input of time is relatively minimal. So I would not, unless council wanted to move away from a process or do some large updates, I don't think the resource, it's not resource intensive to offer this opportunity to the public.
Right. I think the optics are important to allow the public to have a say, and perhaps it can be looked at again, more engagement with council. We know our ratepayers, and we discuss investment in our community regularly with them. So perhaps more knowledge can be gleaned from each individual counselor, maybe a more significant value. Okay, we have that moved and seconded. I'm going to call a question. All in favor of the recommendation? Carried. And 812, if you'd like to proceed with that, Amanda.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew, through you to council. This next report is similar. As for the first time, this was a council budget survey report, and all of council was provided the opportunity to fill out a budget survey. The feedback does, much of it is in line, or like many of the questions asked were in line with the public survey, simply for a comparison purpose. There were some other questions asked of council as well, so it is included here for your information as we prepare for the 2026 budget process.
Okay. Thank you. Council, any questions you'd like to direct to Amanda? Yes, Councilor Vink, go ahead.
Mayor Allen, I haven't got it right in front of me, but from what I remember looking at it, there was a few parts of the survey says 9 members. As far as I know, there's only 8 members on council. So how does that figure out?
I'll let Amanda answer that.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew, through you to council. Great question. So as you recall, the survey link to the council survey was distributed directly to our 8 members of council. It was not advertised publicly. There were a few reminders sent out by staff for council to complete the survey. And it does seem that we've had 2 submission and 1 extra submission. However, given that the survey is anonymous, there's no ability for staff to determine, you know, which set of responses might be repeated. It was not clearly evident. I did try to review the open-ended comments to see if there were similarities that made it obvious to me that that was the repeated one, and there wasn't. So as such, rather than manipulate the data or ask, I've just provided what I received, which might have been an accidental secondary response by someone, which happens. I suspect, though, there's a lot of alignment here in the responses from council. So in my opinion, I don't think the additional response negates the feedback in any way, but that's up to council. This is just a tool in your toolbox, kind of in preparation for budget, but great question.
Okay, we'll look forward to those discussions at those future meetings. Any further questions? Yes, Councilor McGill.
Yeah, I do think it was a good idea to split it up and have council do the survey too, but keep the results separate, because I think in the past, I didn't feel I should do the survey because I thought, well, you know, if we get 60 or 70 responses, but 8 of those responses are for people that are on council, that's really not helping us find out what the people want. So I thought, I won't do it. This way I could still do it. And the results are kept separate from the result given by the public.
And again, it is a good idea to keep it separate, but we do see some alignment between council's opinions and the public's. Any further questions? Then we'll ask that the information be received for information, and council directs the manager of finance, treasurer to use the feedback to inform the development of the proposed 2026 municipal budget, and of course, which will have lots of participation in. Is there a mover and a seconder? Councilor McCollum, Councilor Emery. All in favor? Carried. Thank you, Council. We're moving along here. 8-2, clerk, none. We're okay there. 8-3, finance, none. Denise, thank you. I know you've been busy working. You're not bringing anything to us today, but we know you're not idle, that's for sure. 8.4 Public Works, we have a section 78 on a drain. Morrow, thank you for wearing two hats as well. Okay, we know that you don't need to do that, but it's necessary.
Thank you for that, Mayor. Through the mayor to council, before you is a report to appoint Streets Engineering architects under section 78 of the Drainage Act for the improvements of the Curry and Correckies drain. And I'm here to answer any questions that you may have.
Thanks. Never mind, council, that's section 78. We're almost obligated to take it. Any questions? Yes, go ahead, Mark.
Through the mayor to Morrow. So this is still going to be open ditch, is it? It's just going to be redirected?
Through the mayor to Councilor Miguel, that's my understanding. Yes, that they're just relocating along the property line to have some more room for expansion.
Okay. Any further last call for questions? Recommendation is before you, ladies and gentlemen. What's your wish? All in favor? Carried. Oh, no, it did not. Okay, I moved it. Okay, yeah, sorry about that. Yeah. No, just getting a flinch in my tooth there. Thanks very much, Martin, for that. Moved by Deputy Mayor Scholday, seconded by Councillor Vink, and it's carried. Yeah, keep me on my toes, Colleen. Okay. We've got it. Okay, and Morrow, thank you. Community service and facilities. Kevin, nothing at this time. Fire, there is none. Building, there is none. Planning, there is none. Council, I have not been advised of any notices of motion, so we can move on from that. Correspondence. Amanda, could you guide council on this one for us? City of Welland, correspondence regarding a call to action, standing together for justice and protection of Canada's children. There's a recommendation there that we receive it for information. Really is. What's your wish? Is there a mover and a second? All right, Deputy Mayor, Councillor Myers. Received for information. All in favor? Carried. Unfinished business, council, I'll give you a minute to think about that. And Maura, I wanted to bring this up. Is there any efforts? I know the guys have been busy with snow removal, but are they considering the business districts? Are they at some point?
Yes, I've had conversations with public works supervisors. Unfortunately, we need some factors to work in our favor because obviously we have to work with the snow on the roads and the sidewalks. And when we do the removal of snow in the business, it does take us 2 full evenings to do such. So we really need some good weather coming in the future to do that because it takes half our crew. So we just got to make sure that there's no immediate weather coming forth that we need the full crew to attend to. But it is something that we're looking towards, and hopefully we can schedule in the new year.
Okay, that's in the new year.
That's what we're thinking right now because we're looking like some wet weather coming right now that we're not going to have 2 nights available.
Okay, all right. No, I thought it was a resource problem. I'm sorry to burden you with that question, but it is of high importance to the business community, and they'll know they can make plans accordingly. Okay, county council and conference updates. There is none. Announcements, council. Anything going on in your wards or your places of worship or anything like that? Yep, go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. The Glencoe Lions will be sponsoring a free skate on December 23rd, and we'll have Santa there as well for the kids, and we'll have treat bags to hand out as well.
Okay, so Santa at the arena
on the 23rd.
23rd, Kevin, that sounds great. I'm sure you'll have a busy rink. Okay, that's great. We'll pass that on to our community. Any other announcements? Yes, Councillor McCollum.
Yes, Santa Claus is coming to Melbourne on the 20th.
Okay.
From 11 till 2, I think.
That's good. And that'll be at the Legion, is it?
At the agricultural.
At the
hall.
agricultural hall. Okay, that's good. Sandon and Melbourne, agricultural hall. That sounds good. I'm sure there'll be postings on social media. Anything else? Council, I'll just advise you that a letter of gratitude went out to all the charities in Southwest Middlesex on behalf of council, administration, and staff, everyone included on that. And it's a very impressive list. It's almost 60 people, so it goes out to everyone. We don't miss too many people. And I know it's received well by all of them. So that has been done. I want to thank Barbara for that on staff. She's been very instrumental in it. And of course, front desk Danielle too has been helpful to processing that, and Amanda too. We work together on that. Okay, I think we've got the announcements done. Closed session pursuant to section 239 of the Municipal Act, that the regular meeting of council be temporarily adjourned at 2:42 to permit the holding of a meeting in closed session for the purposes of closed minutes, a proposed pending acquisition or disposition of land, and personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local school board employees. Is there a mover and a seconder for that? Councillor Vink, yep, and Councillor McCollum, all in favor? Thank you very much. We'll